tardiness. There was some logistical stuff. I was trying to do it from home to mitigate the tech issues from last week, and then my internet went out. But here I am. Let's get right into it. I'm going to bring up our slides. Just a second. And yeah, we are here to enter the galaxy of self-awareness and self-care. Interesting. I forgot to change my name on my slides. Anyway, but you know who I am. I was here last week. So let's get into it. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we're pausing for a dramatic effect.
Well done, man. Well done, Meredith. It's a very far galaxy, everybody. Okay, give it a second.
When it's not working.
It's so far away. It takes the time.
A lone but spirited peer support specialist served countless members, volunteers, and fellow peer staff with a whatever it takes approach. Though they were honored to assist so many and the thanks were aplenty, they quickly burnt out and had nothing left to give to others and themselves. They had fallen to the dark side, and the galaxy lost all hope until a Jedi Master found the lone peer support specialist and taught them the Jedi way, bringing them back to the light. The peer support specialist was able to return to what they loved doing the most, and hope was restored in the galaxy. This is the story of how they found the Jedi way. Okay. So self-care and self-awareness. Love this topic. Very, very, very passionate about this topic. I was that young Jedi a few years ago now. And I'm going to share a little bit of a story with you all, just because I know that it's really the stories that I think stick with us when outside of the courses. So I'm gonna actually take down my slides here. So the year was 2020. Lots was going on in the world, as we know. And I got promoted at Project Return Peer Support Network. I went from part-time status at the Warm Line as a peer supporter to full-time program manager overseeing our peer support groups in Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County is split up in what's known as 8 service areas. So, we got like uh, Antelope Valley, San Fernando Valley, San Gabriel Valley, Metro Los Angeles, West Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, and Norwalk, and then, of course, the Long Beach South Bay region. And so, with that promotion, I was responsible for overseeing, supporting, developing, and empowering our team of regional coordinators who supervise their team of volunteers all over the county. Our volunteers lead groups in person and online. That said, I was promoted at a time when we had a few open positions. And you know how it is when there's open positions and you're the supervisor. That means you are covering those roles because the work still needs to get done. With that said, I got burnt out, right? It was the perfect recipe for burnout, which we will see, because I had an increase in workload responsibilities and I definitely had a decrease in my personal self-care. I apparently learned all my lessons the hard way, and this was going to be one of them. I started working later, right? Because the work needs to get done. Started working on the weekends. My timesheet said 9 to 5, but in all reality, I worked like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. The lie that I told myself to get through it was the work needs to get done. I need to do it. I need to show I can handle this. And also, if not me, then who else? Right. And that was just the rhetoric every day. I even would tell myself, well, what else would I do? Right? It's better to work. It's better to get this stuff done. I don't have much else going on because it was the pandemic. And maybe that would have been okay if I was salary, right? Maybe that would have been okay if my supervisors were in the loop about that, and especially if that was what was asked of me, but it was not. And I realized in that time that I really struggled to ask for help. I did not know how to ask for help, and I did not communicate with my supervisor to really let her know what was going on with me. I could count the times that I met with my supervisor in that over 1 year span. It was about 3 times. Now, I was definitely very empowered. I could have always reached out. I could have called her, texted her, emailed her, asked to meet with her, but I did not. And so, unfortunately, my mental health started declining. and I started experiencing suicidal ideation and then suicidal thoughts, which is something that I had not experienced for quite some time up until that point. It was definitely a direct result of my burnout. It was just a serious decline. I started experiencing extreme mood swings, which for me, with my mental health challenge, is like red rage. So lots was going on. I was not well. I also didn't feel like I was doing a good job for whatever reason. And I decided to fire myself because nobody was letting me go. And with that, I actually did get another opportunity to go work for Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. And at the time, my thought process was, if this is how it's always going to be, and I'm always going to be burnt out in this field, and clearly I had no hope, I might as well make more money. So I left for like about a $15,000, $16,000 raise. Again, learning lessons the hard way. When I would go on to work for LASA, um, I really got reconnected to my purpose there because I wasn't welcomed or invited to practice as a peer whenever I shared my story or try to have a compassionate trauma-informed care approach with the members that, let's just say members, um, that wasn't welcomed by the team. I was quickly shunned and so forth. And so I learned the hard way that it doesn't matter how much money you make. What matters is what you're doing every day. And, is it something that's filling your cup? Is it meaningful work? Do you like who you're doing it with? And do you like who you're doing it for? And so I realized how important it was to me to be a peer with a capital P. And thankfully, I was recruited back to Project Return as an employment specialist, I think, for like a month or two, not very long, and then training specialist, training instructor, right? Rest is history. Um, but with that, when I came back with a newfound appreciation for my organization, the work that we do, and also all of the opportunities I've had. And I realized like I need to do it differently when I come back. I don't want to let myself get burnt out. I'm gonna ask for help. I'm gonna check in with people. And, I'm just going to keep that communication because I don't want to get to that place. So, I learned my lesson the hard way and now I get to do what I love so much. But I share that with you all just to share that those things can happen. It's a real quick, um, what do you call it? I'm forgetting the philosophical phrase for it. But things can snowball, right? Things can really snowball when we don't take care of ourselves. If we completely neglect our own needs and not act upon that self-awareness when those lights start coming off, that's what could happen, right? It could lead to mental health challenges and then maybe even you stepping away from the work that you love so much. So I share that story with you all to hopefully inspire you, right? To connect with your futures or current supervisors when things are feeling too heavy. That's what they're there for, and they want to be there for you. I'm almost guarantee it. We don't enter this field and do this work to not be there for others and to not support them and want to help other people feel empowered. Yeah. Thank you all for hearing out that short share. So just kind of bring this into what we're talking about today. I love this quote here on the left-hand side. Can I get a volunteer to read it out for us? Apollo, go for it.
Always with you what cannot be done. You must unlearn what you have learned. Try try not, do or do not. There is no try. Hmm,
Boom.
interesting.
Yeah, that's from Yoda, The Empire Strikes Back. That's how I feel about self-care. We're either doing it or we're not, right? You're either doing it or you're not. And so I don't think there is just an attempt at it where we either got it going on and we're kind of sticking to our routines and doing those things that fill our cups, or we're usually typically totally neglecting it, neglecting our needs. Back in the day, if you would have asked me what I did for self-care, and I'm talking like a few plus years ago, I probably would have told you that stop self-care for me was like going out with my friends, going to the club or the bar, spending time with family, stuff like that. Maybe even a date with a partner. But I know that today to not be true, actually. Because for me, self-care is doing things that pour back into myself and help me feel rejuvenated afterwards. And they typically don't cost any money. Those are the things that really, really help me feel nourished. And when I really thought about myself, my old self-care routine, going to the club didn't make me feel rejuvenated. I felt very depleted after that. It takes a lot of energy. Same thing with being around family, very energy taxing. Like, I'm dodging annoying comments left and right all the time, right? Am I choosing violence today? And by that I mean, healthy discourse or not, right? Those things don't make me feel rejuvenated. What does make me feel rejuvenated today is journaling, especially if I can put on like lo-fi hip hop in the background. I really love to do that. Guided meditations make me feel rejuvenated. A little walk and talk with a friend does make me feel rejuvenated, especially if we're going to like a viewpoint. I happen to live in Long Beach, so I'm trying to make the most of my rent here and make the most of my access to the beach and to Shoreline and the lighthouse, if you know the area. So I'll do my walking over there, and it's always something that feels very rejuvenating. So I want to pause here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up a breakout room. We're going to put you in some breakout rooms, and if I can get host permission, please.
Yes, I got you. Apologies for
Thank
that.
you. And the instructions for the breakout room are just to have a conversation about what are some things that you're doing for self-care. What pours back into your cup, makes you feel rejuvenated and nourished after you do it. And if you'd like, as your partner is sharing out, if you hear anything that you're thinking you want to try or maybe do more of, go ahead and write those things down. It's just for you to take. Mhm. Cool. So let me set these up. And I think we're in perfect pairs here. Awesome. You're going to be automatically moved into your breakout rooms. And I'm going to give you a healthy 5 minutes just to have a chat about this. Does anybody have questions about what we're doing? No? Okay. I think we're going to have one group of three.
Correct.
So, yeah, one group of three. And let's see, I'm just looking on my screen here. Welcome, Alondra. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. So Alondra, what we're doing in our breakout rooms is we're just sharing what we currently do for self-care. What helps you feel rejuvenated, refreshed, nourished afterwards. All right, I'm gonna open up those breakout rooms and I'll see you back in a bit.
I love
Bye.
your
Thank you. Welcome back.
Meredith, I was
So,
enjoying that conversation.
oh, well. I'm glad it was a great conversation. I'm sorry, sometimes
You
y'all will get a
know,
little cut off.
on your spaceship, do you have like another seat?
I do. Come.
queen.
There's space for everyone on the Millennium Falcon. We could party, talk about caps. So I would love to hear out some of those amazing things that you all are doing for self-care. Does anybody want to share what they do or some stuff that they heard? We can also drop it in the chat. All right, let's go to Moni.
Um, I was with it's Ariel, right? I believe it's pronounced
Yes,
Ariel.
it is.
Um, but with our group, I spoke about the first thing I said was blocking people. That gives me a sense of like peace and rejuvenation. Sleep. I love to sleep. Getting my energy back, and journaling, writing poetry, and being in my own isolation. I always say like just filling your own cup up first before going back out into the world around other people, places, and environments is really essential and vital.
Yeah, love that stuff. Ooh, we got the poetry thing in common. I'd love to share some stuff with you. Um, even as I don't know if anybody else felt like this, but as Monty was like talking about those things, did anybody feel a little bit more relaxed, like just thinking about them? I don't know, like something kind of washed over me as I was just hearing you go through that, because those are all very relaxing, grounding activities, even the blocking, right? You're blocking that negative energy, that toxicity out of your life. Like that feels good too, and kind of ritualistic sometimes. Yeah, that's really great. Anyone else? Does anyone else want to share? Let's go Alondra, then Quinn.
Hi, good morning. So I shared in my group that I really like routine. I'm a big routine person that brings me peace. I mentioned how like I always have my planner on me and my Google Calendar, and it's routine for me to do it every single night. It just feels right. And then also to like stress relief, I really like to hit the gym. I lift weights, so that's like my out of like work and school and stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely getting organized helps us to stay on track. It helps to declutter the brain, right? When we know what we got going on, when we need to do it, where we need to be, like all of that really helps. I didn't have a lot of structure in my life growing up. So when I did start introducing structure in my adulthood, um, I was like, wow, this is pretty dope. This is the way. Just because it did help me feel more organized instead of every day, what am I supposed to do today? Where am I supposed to be? What time, do I get to school or even work? Like, I don't know. I used to live very chaotic, but organization really, really helps. And then that physical activity. I love how we're already touching on different dimensions of wellness, right? Physical activity, very important. Didn't get a lot of that growing up and for a long time into adulthood. I really only started working out like pretty religiously, maybe just over a year ago. So it's still a new thing, and I've noticed the difference. I'm like, wow, who knew that eating healthy and like getting physical activity made you feel better? It's true what they say. Wow, all these years, huh? It took me a while. So it's always great to hear folks who are catching on quite early. Anyone? Oh, then we had Quinn. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Quinn.
No, you're okay. Thank you for sharing. I also feel similarly about what you were saying about I guess having an exercise routine or anything like that. I've always struggled with things like that. And um but besides that point, what Apollo and I were talking about in our group and what I was saying is that like for me, I feel like pretty much what has been said, I also agree with, like just alone time and like just being able to sleep and rejuvenate yourself. And then like I even just like to color or like listen to music. But like what I also ended up bringing up was I don't know if it's just maybe how I grew up, but I know there was a bit of a I noticed a bit of a stigma around self-care and like the process of it or what self-care looks like to people. I noticed like a lot of people, for me, like when I would mention self-care, their mind goes to, oh, like I need like a $200 massage and then to get like a $300 mani-pedi and like, spend like all this money on self-care when like, that's not always like the first thing you need to do. Like self care doesn't have to require you to spend like all this money on yourself, which I mean, again, if that's your coping mechanism, that's fine. Like, that's great. But I know some people think they can't obtain self care or like don't deserve it because they can't afford some things. And I don't think that's the truth.
It's interesting. It's almost as if people have started capitalizing on self-care and wellness, right? So that there's it's I mean there every company is like, yeah, we support your wellness, but it's like really we're just taking your money and I'm all for that stuff. But yeah, I think it's very beneficial to anyone to have a kind of an arsenal of things that you can do that don't cost any money at all, right? Especially things that you can do in a pinch, like wherever you are, this is something you can do for yourself to help yourself feel well or feel grounded, just like a coping skill, right? The best coping skills don't cost any money. So yeah, I really appreciate you speaking to that. Anyone else before we move on? Anyone else want to share what they're doing for self-care? Luna.
I shared in my group that for me, like sometimes when I feel like my schedule's too packed, I'll just like go outside for a walk or just sit like under a tree or like to kind of like feel the sun on me, the breeze and like ground or like practice like just like mindfulness techniques for like 5, 10 minutes. But I really love nature, so that's like one of the ways that I self-care, like going for a hike, going to the beach, like doing something in nature. I really love that. And then I also I was in the laundry group and I also like agree that exercise does make a difference. Like it really makes a difference in how I feel like with my mental health and everything. It's like a really good stress reliever. And Yeah, I like going to the gym too.
Yeah, thank you, Luna. Thank you. If anyone's listening, like, yeah, exercise, I don't know about that, because I used to be that person. I would say consider, like, if you're ever having like a really tough day or like a morning or any time of day, really, if you're not feeling well and if you've been at home or maybe at work and you haven't spent out time outside, I encourage you go outside and just take a walk and see how you feel afterwards. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes when I'm, getting the blues at home for whatever reason, maybe there's a stressor. There's always something, right? Things happen. Life be lifing. I'll ask myself, well, have I went for a walk today? Have I been outside? And usually that's just the trick. So interesting. And because we're on this topic, I'm going to share one other thing. I don't know if Renee has shared this with you all, but a couple years ago when I met Renee, she shared this with me. And it's the HALT acronym. Anybody heard of that? HALT? Yeah, and so the whole acronym is if you're ever feeling activated or even triggered or you're just not feeling well, ask yourself if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? And when I go through that, it's usually one of them. And then once in a while, it's all four. And I'm like, well, no wonder I'm pissed off or feeling like this, right? I haven't ate, I haven't slept, I haven't connected with anyone today. So yeah, pass that to you all. Let's go to Monty.
I was gonna piggyback off of Luna and Alondra when they were mentioning the exercising, and it does make a difference. And I just wanted to put out like suggestions, like for someone like me, I used to do like the like extensive, like hardcore like training workouts when I was a teenager because I participated in like a lot of sports. But as I got older, I noticed my body like started to shift from like the excess training to more so like yoga because it's still like more of a movement, but um I started participating in hot yoga so I can still get the experience of the extensive training while also still like flowing like with the body movements of that. So I just want to put out a suggestion if like you don't want to do like that hardcore training, there's like yoga and other stuff available.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much stuff now. This is I'll share this. This is the first time that I'm actually really excited to go to the doctors and like have them weigh me and all of that. They always have those freaking charts and graphs, and I've been overweight since middle school apparently. But this time I'm excited for them to do it because what I'm gonna have them do after they tell me that I'm overweight, those jerks. I'm just getting rude. No, after, I'm going to have them write out a letter of medical necessity that says that I need to exercise because with that letter of medical necessity, I can use something called my flexible spending account from work, which is pre-tax money for health stuff like, band-aids, feminine hygiene things, like, medications. You can use it to pay for health-related expenses. And so with that letter of medical necessity, I'm going to use my FSA to pay for some of my high intensity training stuff. Like I have a boxing gym. It's like very expensive. I don't, it's almost $200 a month. But with the letter, I can use the FSA to pay for it. So passing on the wisdom here. Yeah, let's get back into this. Thank you so much for your shares. You can always drop more ideas for self-care in the chat as we continue on. We have about 7 minutes till our first break. All right. So we talked about self-care, right? Now let's talk a little bit about self-awareness. So self-awareness, I mean, I see the self-care as a preventative thing, right? If you're doing it right, you should be doing it anyway, even especially like even when you don't feel like you need it. That's the idea of self-care. It's just something we always do to replenish ourselves, right? But here and there, maybe before you get into the self-care, you may have those lights that go off for you that's like, ooh, I'm not feeling so amazing. I'm not feeling at my 100 in energy or vibrance, whatever you call it. Like there are things that tend to pop out to each of us that tells us like we're not at our best, right? And that is usually your self-awareness kicking in, right? Self-awareness gives us a chance to tune into ourselves, right? Tune into yourself, your body, your mind, and see what is it that I'm feeling in this moment And what is it that I need? Right? So a lot of times it starts with the self-awareness and then you get into the self-care, right? But I encourage you, if you're not doing it already, try practicing the self-care anyways as prevention. So remember last week when we went over group facilitation and I had that slide of Ice Cube, right? That says, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So, same thing with self-care, right? And self-awareness. Got to check in with yourself. What am I needing, right? Because you will wreck yourself like I did in 2020. So just nuggets for you all. We're very important. Basically, the bottom line here with this slide is that without self-awareness, there can really be no self-care. Right? We got to be able to have that healthy check-in. And that looks different for all of us. Maybe your check-in is the journaling, and you're like, wow, I got a lot going on today. Maybe your check-in is something else. Maybe it's using that HALT acronym. Maybe it's having a printout of the 8 dimensions of wellness and going one by one to see how you're doing. I do that sometimes, right? Maybe it's using a wrap plan for those of you that use one and looking at that daily maintenance plan and saying, am I doing all of these things, right? Or am I missing some stuff? The check-in looks different for each of us. Okay. I was checking my notes really quick just to make sure I'm not skipping any activities. Okay, so what is the role of peer support in activation and teaching self-management? So now we're going to talk about our role as the peer specialist, right? As the provider, the person delivering the services to others. What's our role here? So a peer support specialist helps coach people to cope better and move on to something more sustainable. And then everything else that we do, right? It's a whole thing, whole thing here. Peer support workers do not tell people what to do, but empower them to do it for themselves. So it goes without saying that peer support specialists have to possess some skills and abilities to manage ourselves, right? Because when we're doing the work, and if we're doing it really well, the spotlight is not on us, right? When we're supporting someone. I don't know if we've talked about that, right? It's almost like there's a spotlight on that other person the whole time. If you're doing it right, right? Because it's not about you, it's about them. And so naturally, when people are going through distressing times, they can share out some things that may activate something within you, right? Because empathy is all about connecting with that part of a person's story or their struggles and connecting in something within yourself that knows that feeling. So again, it's going to bring up a lot of stuff for you. And especially for those of you who are already practicing this professionally, right? We don't get trigger warnings in this field. People just get into it. They just do the check-in, they just go there. And that's okay. That's what we're here for. So with that said, we are naturally going to be activated quite often, right? It's a part of the gig. But so with that, that's why it's really important that even when you're thinking about entering this field, that you are in a place in your recovery where you're able to pour into others, right? I'm in recovery, so doesn't mean I'm perfect. It doesn't mean I don't experience mental health challenges from time to time. No, 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 that's not what we're here to say. But being in recovery means that I do have some coping skills in my pocket that I can use and pull out when I'm feeling activated. And we do need to be in that place when we're doing this work because the activations are going to come. Right? We know they're going to be there. And so with that said, it's really important that when we're in those moments of servitude, that we keep that spotlight on that other person. Let's go back to that pretend YouTube video of top 10 common mistakes a peer support specialist would make. This is one of them where sometimes, in an interaction, somebody may hear something that they can relate to, and maybe they're still dealing with that, and then they start talking about it, right? Because I'm trying to be heard too. But that moment of servitude is supposed to be about that other person. So sometimes if we're not feeling well, that can kind of leak out into those meetings or into those spaces where we should be the supportive pillar. It's really important that we remain in that role of service provider, not service recipient when we're there to serve someone, right? Because chances are your members or guests, our consumers of our wellness centers, they're going to be like, dang, I came in to talk to someone and I ended up giving them an ear, right? How many of you, by the way, have ever tried to talk to someone and, you're looking for a listening ear And then the person's like, oh yeah, me too. And then they start talking about themselves. Has that happened to any of you? Yeah? Quite a lot of us, if not all of us, right? You remember that feeling, what that felt like? It's like, I just needed to be heard right now. And then you're all here. So that tells me that you're compassionate people, probably fixers. You want to heal others. And so I bet you gave them that listening ear. I bet you gave them that feedback and we're there for them. And, in our personal lives, that's one thing, but definitely professionally, we want to keep that spotlight on the other person. Oops, let me go back here. All right. So we're any questions about this slide? I feel like I kind of drove that one home. All right. You can stop me anytime if you have questions. It's 9:50, so I think before we continue on, I'm gonna stop my share here. Let's take our first break, and then I'll see you back at 10. Thank you. Fun fact, when you play the Star Wars theme on Spotify, the play bar, it turns into a lightsaber. Pretty cool. They need to do the same for Harry Potter. All right. Hopefully everybody had a good break. I hope you all had a good time. Maybe got a dip stretch, water, coffee, things like that. Self-care type stuff. Try not to curse anyone. But you know what I wanted to say. So I'm gonna bring up our slides and we're gonna go through some more information and I'm trying to get to an activity and then we also have a couple of practice exam questions for fun. Okay, and we'll get into those. All right, I think I'm sharing the right slide. Cool. I don't do many diagrams. This is the one that you get from me, so enjoy. Here we go. So this is the relationship between what we do and how we feel. It's not about thinking our way to better behavior, it's about behaving our way to better thinking and feelings. This couch here is meant to represent periods of inactivity, not hating on the Netflix and chill. This is just meant to represent like times when we're not doing those things that help us feel rejuvenated. So when we have periods of inactivity, it could lead to depression or other unsatisfactory feelings, the stuff we don't like, right? And maybe more anxiety, low energy for the next day, and then everything starts snowballing. This is where behavioral activation is effortful to begin with, meaning we're going to activate those tools, activate the behaviors and self-care things that just help us feel well. Because when we do more of what matters to us, it becomes self-reinforcing and we feel good, right? Doing the things that make me feel rejuvenated help me feel good, and therefore I keep doing those things. But then when I drop into periods of inactivity, then it kind of continues, right? So I want to try to avoid this cycle and just do more self-care. Self-care, if we had $1 for every time we heard it, we would probably all be very rich right now. So I'm really excited to talk with you all about how to build resilience because a couple of mentors of mine, whenever they would present on self-care and self-awareness, I really like how they would say it. So this doesn't come from me, it comes from some awesome mentors I've had in my life. And they used to share how like self-care alone is kind of like just preparing yourself to keep taking the beating in a way, right? It's like I'm doing just enough to get by and to survive the next day, the next week, and until I need it again, and then I do it again, and so forth, right? Because the work can kind of feel like that. It's almost like taking a beating, where you feel crispy by the end of the work week. So self-care alone is not enough, right? We really want to do things that are going to actually pour back into our resilience. And we can do that in many different ways. Go ahead and move our slides along. What is happening here? Is it this? Is this? Interesting. Give me 1 second. Let's stop my sharing. My slide wasn't advancing, so I'm just trying to see if that fixes it. What is happening? Give me a hot second to figure this out. We can go old school, but I don't want to.
You need a chalkboard, Meredith?
Not that old school.
Oh, now you're calling me real old. God, thanks.
No.
We have this running joke, y'all, between Meredith and I.
Yeah, Carlos is
Apparently,
my op.
I never knew I had research applied and got accepted to be her arch nemesis, but apparently that's how it worked out. And so, you know,
Yeah, we have a healthy frenemy relationship. I gotta stop calling you my op because you're not actually an op. I love Carlos. Okay, I'm gonna close the power movie.
Meredith, you mind if I ask him a question while you're rebooting?
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm just curious, in terms of self-awareness and self-care, just by show of hands, was this something that was like discussed as you were growing up in your home environments, like with your, anybody? So here or there? Okay. And then how about now? Has it changed at all in your families? Is there more conversation? There's a little bit of yes and no. Okay. So you're still thinking. It's curious. Yeah. We're making progress. We've got long ways to go as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I think I don't want to call it a silver lining of the pandemic anymore because, a lot of us lost people. Um, I think that it is one of those outcomes though, where people were more knowledgeable around mental health. There was more awareness. I gotta tell you, working on the warm line, there there was just a ton of callers who experienced isolation. And it just really made me more empathetic and compassionate to other people. Prior to working on the warm line, going to the market or like a coffee shop, things like that, I wouldn't socialize with others. Like I wouldn't say, good morning or how's your day? Like I just wouldn't talk to people. I'd be like doing my own thing, blinders on my phone. And then once I started talking to other people in this world who experience a lot of isolation, and they would share stories with me of like, I just wish somebody said hello at the grocery store. Or just wish, I really appreciated when this cashier, was very kind to me and asked me how my day was. Like that meant a lot to me. And so I learned through their stories of how meaningful that is for other people because a lot of the times that might be the only interaction that somebody has that day. And so when the pandemic happened, I kind of was like spitefully like, now y'all gonna see what it's like to be alone and not have that connection. And I do think that the world is just a lot more compassionate coming out of it. And there was a lot more conversation around self-care and community support. So again, I don't want to take away from, all of those of us who have lost people. That said, I can appreciate the things that have come out from that situation. Let's let Luna in. I'm gonna fast forward here. All right, workplace wellness. Who better to talk about it than Han Solo and Chewbacca? Every now and then, when I'm feeling spicy, I'll do my Chewbacca impression. Today is not one of those days, so I apologize. You could just think about it. So workplace wellness. Another like I don't think this is just the Latino or Latinx community. I see this in a lot of other groups as well, where there's such a sense of pride in hard work, right? I grew up seeing my family hustle. Legally and not legally, right? But nonetheless, I grew up with this picture of what success looked like and what hard work looked like, and it never included stuff like this, right? The people around me did not talk about self-care. We talked about working hard and it was a good thing to work hard and it was a badge of honor, right? To work through your breaks, to not take a vacation because you're a hard worker. And I think that wasn't very healthy, right? For that to be kind of my first exposure when it meant to work. Now today I can thankfully say that I've come a long way because I too used to just kind of as I shared with you, I used to have like a whatever it takes approach and just anything that you asked me, yes. You asked me to jump, how high, right? And I was very prideful about that. But going through the burnout and the mental health challenges that were a result of that, I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that stuff anymore. I think my work's gonna speak for itself regardless, and I'm gonna take my breaks. I'm gonna take those 15-minute breaks. I'm gonna take my lunch away from my desk because I deserve to eat, right? Like I still have to go home with myself and my body at the end of the day, and I want to know that I prioritize my own needs. Because if I'm not well, then that's just going to spill over into everything that I do. If I don't have lunch and I'm hungry or I'm really tired, I'm not getting sleep, right? If I'm not stepping away, taking breaks when I need them, I'm going to be short with people that I supervise or that are coming in. I'm going to be snappy, right? Maybe sassy. I'm not gonna have the best like brain processing to come up with creative solutions to things that we have going on. I'm just not gonna be right, and I'm not gonna be well enough to do the work as effectively as I would like to do it. I am a bit of a perfectionist, and we all know perfection doesn't exist. So I strive to be a woman of excellence, okay? And to be that woman of excellence, I need to take care of myself first. Just like getting on a plane, right? They say put the oxygen mask on yourself before doing it for others. And if any of you have the luxury of boarding a plane, I encourage you to listen out for that announcement. I love to hear it because to me it's the reminder of self-care. So, show of hands here for those of you who are working or even if you're going to school, even in caps, like how many of you are actually taking your breaks that are given to you? Everyone here getting a gold star for the breaks? I see some of you, I thought it maybe saw one of you like, not so much, right? That's okay. We aspire to get to that place where we're taking them. When I think of workplace wellness, I also think of the importance of having some basic tools, like having, and I shouldn't call it a basic tool because it's one of the best things to have, which is finding your voice. How many of you here feel like you found your voice? Anybody here feel like they found their voice? You can advocate for yourself, maybe for others. I'm kind of one of those people. It's a lot easier for me to stick up for someone else versus myself. Yeah, finding your voice is so important. I thought I found my voice prior to that promotion I got in 2020, but I didn't because I didn't know how to ask for help. To me, that's a true test of knowing if you found your voice. Are you able to speak up and speak life into the things that you are feeling and going through and the support that you need? Right? Are you able to call your supervisor and ask them for that help? I think that's an amazing sign that you found your voice. You're in a great spot if you feel comfortable to do that. Now, that's not to say sometimes there's other barriers to the communication, right? Maybe from the other party. Maybe we didn't get the results we wanted the last time we reached out. That's okay. We're just talking about the strength in being able to make that contact. I was one time, this was for me a true test of knowing I found my voice. I was sitting in a team meeting and this happens once in a while. Now lately it's, definitely once in a while. But I was in a team meeting and we were talking about the process of how we're doing something. And the whole team was going this way. And I internally was like, no, what the hell? We need to go this way, right? Like I just was like, what? And with shaky hands and a shaky voice, I spoke up and I shared my input and my thought process as to why we should do this thing this other way. And that's when I realized like I do have my voice, right? So even with shaky hands and a shaky voice, we're gonna say it anyways. I just challenge you all to consider, you know, putting yourself first as much as possible. If your energy level isn't there that day to maybe take on an extra workload or an extra task, right? Because if you take that on, oh, I'm gonna be real stressed out and that's gonna impact me. Or maybe I might have more anxiety. I simply do not have the time or capacity to take that on. I encourage you to respond to that light bulb coming on and voice that, right? Because sometimes us supervisors, we get it twisted sometimes, right? We forget like what everybody has on their plates. We also sometimes simply just do not know, right? And so it's everyone's role to inform others and say, hey, I don't have the capacity because I have this, this, and this. More than likely, your supervisor is going to be like, oh, thanks for reminding me. Because I know I do that. I'll try to put a project or something on someone's plate, and they're like, well, I have these deadlines and this. I'm like, oh no, let me not do that to you. I take it back, right? Just like that. I'm like, I take it back and I will delegate this to someone else. All right, checking our chat here. Okay, let's keep going. How many of you know the difference between compassion fatigue and burnout? Anyone know them like the back of their hand a little bit? Another tattoo I need to get. Carlos like, hmm. So, can I get a volunteer to read out this part about compassion fatigue? Let's go to, let's see. Is that Devin, were you raising your hand?
No, but sure.
Okay.
A compassion fatigue, the emotional residue or strain of exposure to working with those suffering from the consequence of traumatic events.
Thank you. How many of you have ever had somebody in your life who was going through relationship issues? And let's say it was pretty textbook that that thing is unhealthy, like real, like, what are you doing? Like, this is just all bad. All signs point to leave, right? But the person doesn't, they're going through it and they keep coming to you about that situation, looking for advice, feedback, a listening ear. And shit, it's been some months now. It's still the same thing. And you get to a place where you're like, I kind of don't want to hear it anymore because you're still gonna stay. That's compassion fatigue. That's what you're feeling, right? Because you're taking it all in and now it's just starting to leave some residue, right? It's starting to impact you because you care about that person. You want the best for them, and they seem to not be making the best choices as it would appear for their own interests, right? Textbook stuff. We're not judging them. It's just pretty damn, then you got cheated on how many times? How many more? That kind of situation. Yeah, we do experience a lot of compassion fatigue. It's very natural. You're not a jerk, right? You are experiencing a natural process that occurs when you are supporting somebody with a situation that is just stressful, for lack of better words. That's compassion fatigue. And we get that all the time. Burnout. Apollo, I know you had your hand up earlier. Apollo, would you be open to reading the burnout part? Thank you.
Cumulative process marked by emotional exhaustion and withdrawal associated with increased workload and institutional stress, not trauma related.
Yeah. So that's burnout, right? It's specifically related to work. Or like as I shared with my story, there was an increase in workload and I wasn't increasing the self-care, I was actually decreasing it and then not asking for help, right? Because I hadn't found my voice yet. Uh, that's burnout. So we talk about them because we want you to be able to identify them and also to just kind of demystify these things and let you know they are pretty natural, pretty common. I think I will say that most people in this field experience burnout at least once. I actually haven't met anyone who hasn't, but I'm going to leave room for those unicorns out there who are just, awesome doing the thing. So it occurs, right? So consider what are your personal signs where like, ooh, I'm not feeling so well. Those things look different for all of us. We're not going to engage in this discussion, but I just invite you to reflect on what your personal signs are. If you have a RAP plan, you've probably already identified those signs. We do have wellness planning as a part of CAPS Academy. I don't think you've taken it yet, have they, Carlos? Or have you all? Yeah, so you'll look forward to that. We're definitely going to be talking more about this stuff, and you're going to have a practical tool you can use to help you prevent burnout, so forth. So hang on to that. Mhm. I do want to note that there's some common specific tasks that do lead to burnout for us providers. The number one thing I think is actually like caseloads for those people who work as case managers, or you have a caseload, like you're serving a lot of people. That could lead to burnout because when you have a number attached to your role, of like these are all the people I have to support, you're constantly feeling like you're not hitting your mark. I tend to remember the perfectionist thing. I have real high expectations of myself. I want to serve everyone. And it's like to a detriment because then I'm looking at that list as I have done before, and I'm like, oh, I didn't get to call these people today. You feel like you're not doing a good job. So sometimes what I like to do when I'm starting my work day or a project or a task is I set the intention. So for example, this course here that I'm presenting with you all, that I'm facilitating, my intention coming in today was just to have a good conversation with you all about self-care and self-awareness. Like regardless of anything that could occur in class, as long as I felt like I had a good conversation with you all about this stuff, I have hit my mark, the mission is met, right? Let me give you another example. This was a couple years ago. I was with another awesome mentor of mine. I've been lucky to have great mentors in my life. I was at a resource fair. You know, you're passing out the flyers, meeting people, chill thing. And I made a really good connection with somebody who wanted to lead a peer support group for us. I found a volunteer, which is awesome, right? And I'm talking with the person who's with me, my coworker, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to bring them on. As soon as we get done here, I'm gonna go to the office. I'm gonna work on their paperwork. I'm gonna talk to so and so, get them situated. And that person was like, Mary, let today just be about, hey, I met somebody who wants to be a volunteer. You don't have to rush into all of the other steps. Like today you made contact with somebody, right? We identified somebody who's going to start a group. Let yourself enjoy that moment. And I was like, ooh, I like that. That's definitely not how I usually operate. I'm always rushing into the next thing because the work keeps going. Now today, that's definitely something I would practice. Not everything has to be rushed. We don't have to always jump into those other things. Sometimes there are outside pressures, right? Maybe that's the process for your program and that's what's asked of you. But I encourage you to ask yourselves, is this thing I'm doing urgent? All right, is this urgent or can it wait? Is there anyone else who's identifying it as urgent or can it wait? Am I the only one here in this situation who is trying to make this urgent, but I know it's actually not urgent? Ask yourself those things, right? A lot of things can wait. Resilience building. Something lost, a part of yourself, perhaps. That which you seek inside you will find. So we want to pour into our resilience. Yay, we made it to the activity. I don't know. I was like, I keep talking a lot. So here's what we're going to do. Part of your assignment work for this course was to complete a document titled Personal Sources of Resiliency. You're going to need it, so go ahead and pull it out. And I will pull up my copy on screen in just a second. Again, this was a part of your assignment packet. So you're going to want to download it if you haven't had a chance to look at it. I did happen to see that 50% of the class submitted their assignment. But I know that there tends to be more people that have done it. You just haven't submitted it. I'm going to pull this up on screen. And this is what we're using here. It's literally the second page of the packet. So part of your assignment was to go through this personal sources of resiliency checklist and to just check off all of the things that you were doing in an average week. Not where we aspire to be, but like an honest check-in of where am I at? Do I get enough sleep to feel rested while at work? Yes. Do I take regular breaks at work throughout the day and eat my meals away from my desk? My body feels energized at work. Yeah. Do I get physical movement during the workday? Do I pace myself so I do not feel unhealthy levels of stress? Yes. Emotional. I express appreciation to coworkers often enough. Yes. I enter my workplace with positive feelings on a daily basis. I leave my workplace with positive feelings on a daily basis. Yes. I have a healthy balance between time spent with work, family, and other interests. I do not take work home with me. Absolutely. And I get deep satisfaction from many work tasks. Yes, that is true. I focus on one task at a time. No, I do not. I do not let email interrupt my tasks. I have an organized task list. I focus equally on short-term and long-term tasks. I could probably do better. I have adequate opportunity to use my creativity skills, and I have adequate time for long-term visioning. Yes. Spirit. I spend considerable time at work doing the tasks I love to do. I use the power of my own life difficulties as a source of strength. Absolutely. I am aware of and have adequate opportunity to use my primary gifts and talents at work. I believe my work group is making a substantial contribution to the world. Mhm. There's little difference between what I say is important about my work and what I do at work. And I have regular spiritual practice. Absolutely. So, if you haven't had the chance to complete this assignment, it doesn't take very long to do it, as you just saw. Um, you are going to partner up for this activity. We may have one group of three, and the invitation in your breakout rooms is to simply share your answer to these questions here. So question number one is which of the four, and the questions are actually here, which of the four main areas is your strongest? So out of spirit, mind, emotional, physical, which one do you feel like you have more check marks? If it's even, you can speak to those couple. And then which one of the four main areas would you like to grow in? Right? So I could see from me, oh, clearly it's mind. And how will you nurture that area needing growth? Right? So we're going to share some ideas we have and we can exchange ideas. And everyone's going to take turns answering those questions that are down here. You don't need to write answers. We're going to have a natural debrief when we come back. Does everybody understand the instructions for the breakout room? Yeah? Okay, cool. Let's make sure we get those rooms set up. We'll keep you in the same rooms if we can, which, cool, I think we're able to. All right, I'm going to open up those breakout rooms. And because this one is um, a little bit more conversation-ish, I'm forgetting the word. You know what I mean? I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So we're going to come back at 10:35, okay? I'll see you back in a bit. I'm going to let you chill in the rooms for a little bit. So I apologize about just being yanked back like that. Hopefully everybody was having great conversation. I want to hear out like what are some takeaways from this activity and this like let's have a healthy debrief. Like what are your takeaways? What are your areas for growth? What are you going to do to nurture that growth? Anything at all. The floor is yours. Apollo.
I feel like it was like a lot of um like just a moment to like reflect, especially like I guess like on the emotional side of like things and like physical too, because like sometimes like if I'm deeply like into a task, like I kind of like will like tune everything else out, like nothing matters besides that task. So I have to like just focus in on that and just worry about everything else like later. Like let's say if I like forgot to pack a lunch for work or something like that. I'm like, okay, like, but I have to catch up on a lot of like work tasks. And I'll just be like, oh well, I just won't eat until I get home, and I'll just do my work and stuff. That's like the physical part, and then the emotional. I feel like since it's been a lot of changes in the workspace, um, I feel like I haven't been able to like connect with everybody and like really be like, like it feels like a team. Like sometimes it feels like, the support could feel like conditional and very like ingenuine. So it kind of has me like more like I feel more, I don't know, like kind of isolated in a way, like to myself. Like I want to be to myself more. And yeah, it's just a lot of things that I'm like realizing now, like especially through this activity. So um, I hope that made sense. That was like kind of like a lot. But yeah.
Makes perfect sense. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. It's always a privilege to hear things that are personal to you all, right? Because you don't need to trust us and share them with us, and that's very real. That's some real stuff. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Papa. Anyone else? Not all at once.
I'll go.
Thank you, Mom.
So I had shared that um my mind and my emotional state needs a lot more work. And specifically like in that area, it's because like I was telling Ariel, I call myself like a crybaby because I cry a lot and it's it's more so like I'm passionate about a lot of things, but it's gotten to the point where I've let my emotions override who I am in the present. And in the past, when it was worse, I used to let my emotions like really get the best of me to the point where I ended up in situations that, I had to suffer the consequences, of course. Um, but really just focusing on the mind and the emotional state, because I am going to be working in an establishment where I'm going to be focusing on individuals and their needs and specifically to those matters. And I want to be able to pour more into myself in that area so I am able to become aware of those signs in another individual.
Mm, that is so lovely, Lonnie. Thank you. That's the gig. That's the whole thing. We could just end it right there. Um, y'all heard that? Everyone heard that? Right? That's the thing, right? It's like that's what we're doing here is that we are able to share what we know, what we're practicing, what works for us with those other people, to be able to identify our strengths so we can help them to identify their strengths. It's so much more. Wow, you're really getting this stuff. Anyone else? Anyone else want to share takeaways from that activity? Thumbs up if you want to move forward. Okay, well, we'll do that. That sheet, I believe, your copy is fillable, so save it, and you can use that as a tool. Every so often, check in with yourself. I recommend at least every 6 months, but you could do it more. You can even share that with your team as an exercise or activity, something you all can do together to open up a conversation to see how you can support one another. All right. So here I have some tips for managing compassion fatigue. I'm not going to read the whole thing because you have this, but I will read out a couple. Couple favorites. Accept where you are on your path at all times, right? We are not perfect. We don't got to be. The challenges will be there. It's okay. Right? We keep it rolling. Let's see. Clarify your personal boundaries, what works for you and what doesn't. It's very important that we hold those to ourselves because what's that phrase? The body keeps the score, right? Right? You may not be clocking it when you're not holding those boundaries for yourself, but trust me, it registers somewhere. And sometimes these things have a way of kind of manifesting into something greater. For example, when I get sick at different intervals throughout the year, I can't help but notice that I tend to get sick after a period of time where I was stressed out and not taking care of myself. I don't know, but I'm thinking there's a connection there. Let's see. We talked about asking for help. Well, this one's pretty important. Number 8, limit the amount of daily news you watch or read about. We all want to be informed. It is our duty to probably stay informed. It's important for us to do so. But do we have to read about it 30 times in a row for hours and hours? Maybe not, right? So I encourage you, stay informed, but limit the amount of exposure to everything that is going on out there, right? We know it's there. It impacts us as a whole. I think that we are going through a collective trauma right now, right? As a community, as a nation, as a state, like it's different. We're experiencing some trauma, so maybe limit some of that exposure. Does anybody see one on here that they like? Y'all seeing anything that you want to take with you today? Maybe practice more of? I also really like this one. Try to come to terms with the fact that pain and suffering are realities of life over which we have little or no control. That one's just like very straightforward. Like it's just a part of life that life is gonna life, right? Things that are always gonna happen that are out of my control. So I try to focus on what is within my control. What can I do? Um, I'm sorry to bring up the politics, but that is the major thing that is impacting us all. So I may not be able to take legislative action today, but I can take action in my community. I can raise that awareness. I can protest. I can, participate in mutual aid to support my community. There are things that we can do, and I will tell you that if you do those things, it does feel a little bit better. Doesn't take away the pain of what's happening, but it feels good to feel like you're doing your part. I'm gonna go to Mani, then Luna.
I was gonna say I like number 12. If you must blame something, blame the situation, not the person. But I kind of wanted to add in there that if you are also gonna blame something, I like to more so say like the word accountability, because oftentimes like situations happen where we tend to blame the other parties or other people when we ourselves put ourselves in those situations and we refrain from the fact that we had anything to do with it. So I like the fact that just, taking accountability for how the part that you played in the situation and then how the other party played in that situation as well.
Accountability and ownership, super important. Thank you. Let's go to Luna.
I really like number 10. I feel like that helps me out a lot, like just finding things to be grateful for, especially like you were saying, like right now, there is a lot going on politically in this country and in our community. So just kind of like finding the small things that I'm grateful for and like those blessings that I have in my life and focusing on them helps me stay positive than to like focus on the negative and the things I can't change, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you. I also see Apollo mentioned number 2, accept where you are on your path at all times. And Quinn also mentioned number 12, something you try to remember more often when things happen that are out of your control. That one really helped me. I feel like once I really started practicing, um, kind of like blaming the situation, not the other individual, like not pointing fingers at them. It's like, I'm not upset with you. I'm just upset at this situation we're both in. Everything else kind of shifted. My life changed after that. Once I really practiced that. Really interesting stuff. Something I did, I went through a horrible separation at the end of 2024. And I would give you the tea, but we don't have time. I'm sorry. But horrible separation is something that really helped me just keep a positive mindset was to practice gratitude every day, every morning. And I actually got it was so weird. As a gift in 2023, I got this like Hello Kitty. I'm a Hello Kitty girl. It's a Hello Kitty gratitude journal. And every day it asks you to write like today my day will be. So I'm manifesting what my day is gonna look like. And then today I'm grateful for, and I list all of the things I'm grateful for. Now, you don't need a special journal to do that, right? You can just simply write these things out. And doing that every single day, no, I just had a more positive mindset. Like starting my day with that gratitude list just did something for me. Again, I didn't grow up doing this, right? Nobody in my family made gratitude lists. It would have been like, what the heck? But it's made all the difference for me. So you have these, take them with you. I got a couple minutes left here, so we're going to do a practice question or two. So going back to the state exam, self-awareness and self-care is one of the core competencies for your exam. And they ask questions that relate to interpersonal skills. So the knowledge they're looking for you to have is that you know when to practice self-awareness to ensure that that other person's recovery is the focal point of the peer support relationship. Meaning you have some skills and know when to use those skills so that way you're still serving the other individual even when you're feeling activated. And then they're also looking for you to know how to practice self-care and that basically how to identify activities that can reduce stress and just help you feel nourished. Pretty straightforward. So here is our practice question. You're going to type the answer in the chat, but don't hit enter yet. Everyone got that? You're not going to enter it in the chat. You're going to put it, and when I say enter, then you'll hit enter. Okay. You are working with a peer who is struggling with anxiety and has recently started a new job. During your sessions, the peer frequently expresses doubts about their ability to succeed in this new role, which reminds you of similar past experiences. How can you practice self-awareness to ensure that the peer's resiliency and recovery remain the focal point of your support? A. Remind the peer that many people struggle with new jobs and share your own experiences to make them feel better. B. Focus on exploring the peer's past failures to help them understand why they might be feeling anxious. Or C. Reflect on your own feelings and ensure they do not overshadow the peer's experiences. Encourage the peer to identify their strengths and past successes to build their confidence. Or D. Advise the peer to seek professional counseling if they continue to feel anxious, as peer support might not be enough. Which one do you think is the right answer? You're going to type it in the chat. Give you a hot second to do that. Remember, it's just practice. Let's go ahead and hit enter. What do you think the answer is? Okay, lots of C's. Lots of C's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, yeah, and the answer is C. The reason why is because it's all about practicing self-awareness, which involves being mindful of our own feelings and ensuring that they don't interfere with that person's process. By focusing on their strengths and their successes, we kind of help to reinforce their resiliency, their recovery, right? We're reminding them like, you can do this. We're inspiring hope. And again, we're keeping that person at the focus of that peer support relationship. Let's do one more. As a peer support specialist, maintaining your own well-being is crucial to effectively support others. Which of the following strategies best exemplifies practicing self-care to reduce to reduce stress, maintain personal health, and achieve work-life balance? A. Working overtime frequently to ensure that all your peers' needs are met, even if it means sacrificing your personal time. B. Setting aside time each day for physical exercise, healthy meals, and hobbies you enjoy, while also establishing boundaries to ensure you have adequate rest. C. Focusing solely on your peers' problems during work hours and ignoring your own feelings and stress until the weekend. Or D. Taking on additional responsibilities at work to demonstrate your commitment, even if it means less time for relaxation and self-care activities. You can go ahead and just enter the answers in the chat. And I'm seeing lots of B's. Yeah, then that is the correct answer. We want to practice self-care, which involves engaging in activities that promote a healthy work-life balance. It's so interesting reading the other answers because I bet you saw me, you're like, what the heck? But then that was all the stuff that I did. I wrote this question. I did all of that. You know, it's so funny. But yes, B is the correct answer. So yeah, you're doing this. You guys are doing awesome. Y'all are doing great. So I know it's 10:52, Carlos. I'm just gonna wrap up with a quick story. This is our starfish story. Has anybody here heard the starfish story before? Anyone? I'm looking around. Anyone? Devin, have you heard it? No? Monty, maybe. Okay, sounds like I get the privilege to share it with you. I get excited about this kind of thing. I gotta tell you, whatever makes you happy. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about the stuff that makes you smile. So, here's the starfish story. An old man was walking on the beach one morning after a storm. In the distance, he can see somebody moving like a dancer. As he came closer, he saw that it was a young woman bending down, picking up starfish, and gently throwing them into the ocean. He said, "Young lady, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" "Well, the sun is up and the tide is going out, and if I do not throw them in, they will die," she said. "But young lady, do you not realize that there are many miles of beach and thousands of starfish? You can't possibly make a difference." She bent down after listening to him, picked up another starfish, threw it into the sea, and said it made a difference for that one. I'm going to end with this. Thank you all so much. I appreciate this time with you. I'll see you at your graduation. Bye, everybody.